Okay, now we're entering Module 4, and Module 4 has to do with how we perceive things, meaning the conclusions we draw, the thoughts we have, the beliefs we have, because a lot of trauma, well, it affects our thinking, and we're going to get into this. This module actually has 8 sections to it. So I chose this picture because a lot of us end up living in a way when we've been through some bad things, we try to be now prepared for absolutely everything. We want to have it all. What if I need a bike? What if I need a hose? What if I need this? What if I need that? And like our life just becomes like one giant massive set of rules and policies we now have to ensure our safety. And it obviously overlaps with OCD. I have to do this, I have to do that, like with these kind of ways that are very linked to our thinking. We don't always realize it's in our thinking, but as we start to expose it, then we can rewrite some of it and get to a healthier place. So I'm going to share my screen and we're going to get into this. So again, there's a theory section here that we can close off and get right to the exercises. But so I'm explaining right now this theory that the idea that, when a disturbing event or trauma doesn't heal with time, it's often because it's affected how we see things. And in a particular treatment for post-traumatic stress disorder called cognitive processing therapy, based on cognitive processing theory, the theories about how our mind interprets data that's coming in. One of the key ideas is that sometimes a trauma will either change our pendulum from one extreme to another, where we might grow up thinking we're perfectly safe or we can handle things. And then after a trauma, we sing to like, boy, was I wrong. I can't handle anything. I don't know how to keep safe. I better do all these things. So it's this extreme of a pendulum. A lot of health is going to be in the middle. But the other thing that happens is sometimes we already grow up with a pretty dysfunctional belief that we're in constant danger. And then the trauma makes us think, boy, was I right? Glad I've never trusted anyone. And so we're already living a much smaller life than was necessary. So we're talking about how events that happen impact our thinking, whether we acknowledge it and make it conscious or not. So that's what this is. And the idea that we can't help but frame things, just like filmmakers, anybody with a camera is always going to be framing what they're perceiving. And we can't not do that. We're always editing. We're always, and a lot of mindfulness is about trying to undo the editing, trying to just go with the flow and notice bigger aspects of context. We're going to be getting into that. A lot of what we're talking about too is it's cool that the mind is constantly trying to figure out what it needs to deal with and what it can pass to background. And some of these techniques are also trying to do that as well. But first, we got to bring it to the foreground, examine it, and then new, healthier thoughts can become the new normal for us. Okay. Again, this wouldn't be for someone who's still in danger. I wouldn't want to put you in a false sense of security if you're still in a situation in life where you need a lot of vigilance, a lot of alertness. And I also don't want to ignore that terrible things are happening in society at times. People do go and shoot up a school, kill all sorts of innocent people, these mass shootings. So as I was writing this section, I was like, well, how do we handle this where we acknowledge that those realities do happen, and yet most of us want to be able to live our life in as normal a way as possible. So a lot of what we're going to be talking about are likelihoods. What is the likelihood of something? So is there a chance someone's going to shoot up a Walmart or a school today? Yes. Now, what are the odds that it's going to be in the state where I live, in the city where I live, in the suburb where I live, and in the 1 hour that I'm going to be there? That just reduced the likelihood by a lot, where most of us are going to make the decision to still go shopping. So anyway, I just want to kind of introduce that I'm aware and sensitive to the fact that I could be wrong. I could go and get killed that day, but I'm going to make a choice not to live in that fear. I'm gonna try to do I'm gonna, I might look at police reports. I'm gonna want to know what my neighborhood is like. I'm gonna want to know what's the frequency of crime, these kinds of things, and then make my choices. But I don't want to surrender and live, in some rural town of Nebraska. I don't want to live the same way I would live if I was in certain parts of Chicago, certain parts of St. Louis, certain parts of New York. Like I do want to still be able to distinguish between those places and the likelihood of something happening.